What are we discussing on today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast? What went wrong with the Jordan Lawler experiment? And then answering your guys' questions on today's Mailbag Friday, like should the D-backs be deadline sellers?
You are Locked on Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. You're listening to who? The always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas, multimedia journalist, and I'm a graphic designer. So please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. I'm there to see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. If you want to see more content by me, please follow me on Twitter at CareerThomas24 for my personal account, or look up Locked on Diamondbacks, both Twitter and Instagram, for the podcast handle, because I also go live on YouTube Sunday through Thursday after D-backs games. And if you want to get notified when I go live, you got to follow me on social media, because I always tweet out before I go live. So follow me on the socials or hit that little bell icon next to the subscribe button so you also get notified when I go live. Now, today's episode of the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. On today's podcast, we are going to be discussing the Jordan Lawler experiment and how it came to an end. Should the D-backs be sellers on today's deadline? And answering more of you guys' questions on today's Mailbag Friday as well. Like, also, is the bullpen fixable? Got a whole bunch I want to talk to you guys about today. But first, want to say thank you for making Locked on Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free. It's available on all platforms. So please continue to tell your friends. But now let's get into the podcast. Back here on the Locked on D-backs podcast, let's talk about Jordan Lawler and the experiment ending for now for the Arizona Diamondbacks, because Jordan Lawler has been optioned back to AAA Reno, and it has not been a good stretch of games for Lawler. He was called up on May 12th and had just never found his footing. He's only started in 6 of 15 games, and in those 15 games, he was 0 for 19 with 9 strikeouts. Jordan Lawler did not record one base hit on the major league level, which is kind of insane. Like, yes, I know he struggled, but he is still too talented not even get one hit. Like, that's actually kind of improbable. Like, if you tell any top 100 prospect position player they're going to get 19 at bats, 98% of them are probably going to get a base hit. So it's probably pretty statistically improbable that one of the best prospects in all of baseball can come up for 2 weeks and not get one base hit. It's insane. And Lawler clearly didn't look ready for the major league level. I mean, you could throw him any kind of pitch. If it was a good breaking pitch, he would swing at it. If it was an elevated fastball, he would swing at it. Like, his play discipline right now just isn't there. He needs to go to the Jerry Perdomo school of plate discipline, go learn from him of what a ball and a strike is. I think Lawler knows what it is, but for some reason, when he gets on the major league level, he just gets a little deer in the headlights, and we saw that with him at the plate. We also saw that with him playing defense as well, because there would be times where he would make an incredible diving stop or just do something athletically where you're like, oh man, that guy has real defensive chops. But then also he would make some plays where you're like, oh, are you a good defensive player? Like, people talk about you like you are, but I haven't exactly seen it, because he does have an error. He has a couple errors for the D-backs so far in 2025. I believe he has 3 errors for the D-backs so far in 2025. And the glove is something that was supposed to be, his calling card, or at least his strength, something that he could fall back on. If the bat wasn't there, he can at least say the glove is. And the fact that he had more errors than hits in a 2-week span, not good to see. And it felt like for Jordan Lawler, it wasn't just the fact that he struggled. He didn't look ready for the major league level. It felt like the D-backs were not ready for Jordan Lawler. Like, why did we call him up if we did not have a plan of action for Lawler? I think that's the thing that frustrated me the most because Lavello went to the press conference right when Lawler was called up, and he was like, "Yeah, we're going to get this guy 2, 3, 4 starts a week." He made it sound like Lawler was going to be starting half the games in a given week. It just never happened. He only started 6 of the 15 games and never felt like he was put into the best positions to really, take advantage of the situations he's in. Like you went against the Rockies, you played a lefty. The lefty faced Lawler earlier in the season in the Reno, or excuse me, just overall in the minor leagues. And Lawler had success against him in the minor leagues. And did Lawler start the game against the lefty against the Colorado Rockies, who he already faced earlier this season, 2025? No, he did not. Against the Pittsburgh Pirates, did Lawler start against the lefty that the Pirates threw out? No, Lawler did not. Did Lawler start the games of Yamamoto and Paul Skeens? Yes, Jordan Lawler did. I just think he has not been put in the best positions possible by the D-backs, by their manager, by their front office, and it's disappointing to see because this is someone that is so talented and not someone that I'm writing off yet. Like, yes, he struggled in the small sample size he had, but he's still so talented. I still think you can see the tools that are there. And so if you're asking me, how worried am I when it comes to Lawler's development and the D-backs handling of Lawler's development? I wouldn't say I'm that worried. I wouldn't say I'm like super cautious because I do think when you look at the recent track record for the D-backs, there's more success than not when it comes to developing players, especially at the top end. Brandon Fott, one of their top pitching prospects. Corbin Carroll, their top hitting prospect overall. Justin Martinez, one of their nasty relievers. Perdomo was like a top 10 prospect. Like all those guys have hit and come into their own. Guys like Alec Thomas, yes, haven't found their stride, but at least he does have something that could keep him in the major leagues a long time, his glove. And so I do think the D-backs recent history shows you that they're actually a pretty solid team when it comes to developing talent. And so I wouldn't worry too much about Jordan Lawler and whether or not we think this little stint will have a long-term impact on his success on the major league level because I do think he will be fine, but I do think the D-backs need to have a better plan of action when they call Jordan Lawler back up because there was like a 2-3 week period earlier in 2025 when you had Ketel Marte out with injury on the injured list. You just had your infield wide open. Jordan Lawler crushing it in Reno. And what did the D-backs do? Nothing. They let him crush in Reno, and then they called him up right when Marte got back. I don't think that made much sense at all. But there is potential for Jordan Lawler to get a lot of playing time in the second half of the season because if the D-backs continue trending in the direction they're going, they might be sellers at the deadline. And if they are, it could open up a whole bunch of playing time for Jordan Lawler. Maybe a little Eugenio Suarez gets moved considering he's a pending free agent. Now you can move Jordan Lawler over to third base. We'll discuss the idea of the D-backs being trade deadline sellers on the heels of a Mailbag Friday in segment number 2. But hey, I first want to talk to you guys about Supply House because get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is a reliable way to order products online. Their easy to use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with the complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers great expert support and industry leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for the trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. All right, back here on the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. Now let's discuss a little Mailbag Friday and answer your guys' questions entering the weekend. The first question I'm going to be answering is from a guy named Sad Boy, who said, should the D backs be sellers at the deadline? I see why your name is Sad Boy, because that is a very sad question to ask. It's something that I have seen floating around more recently on D backs Twitter, the idea of the D-backs being sellers. And I will say, we're not at that point yet. D-backs are 27-29. It's not looking the best, but you still look at the MLB standings, and the D-backs are a team that are still in the mix. As long as the D-backs are near 500, as long as they are currently, 5 games back of the wild card, which actually sounds that was actually further back than I actually anticipated. I want to open up the standing just now and see 3.5. 5 games back. If the D-backs continue this trend toward the deadline, they should be sellers. But at this point, 5 games back, if you get that to within 2 by the time you're at the deadline, you're not going to be sellers, because we saw the D-backs do this last year, and I don't want the D-backs to do it again, but we saw the D-backs look so bad in the first half last year and then completely turn it on in the second half. And if the D-backs can do that once again, they're going to put themselves in a position for a postseason wild card berth potentially. Now, I did not like the way last season went, where you struggled the first half, you got hot in the second half, and then you still missed the postseason. That was not a fun time, but we have seen the blueprint of the D-backs starting slow in the first half of the season, getting to the All-Star break, and then everything turning around. Let me see. When is the MLB All-Star break this year? MLB All-Star Game 2025. It's July 15th. So if you look at the D-backs record on July 15th last season, the D-backs were 49-48. They were 1 game above 500 on July 15th. On July 1st, the D-backs were 2 games below 500. So the D-backs were right where they are right now. D-backs currently a couple games below 500. Entering July, they were 2 games below 500. On the day of the All-Star game, they were 1 game above 500. That's where Arizona needs to be if they want to potentially compete for a postseason berth. They need to be right around 500 by the time we get to the deadline. But if the D-backs continue at the pace they are at, with bullpen meltdowns, with bad decision-making from the manager, bad defense, bad situational hitting, you get to the deadline and you're like 6, 7, 8 games back of a wild card berth. Like, if you're 6 games or more back of a wild card berth, the D-backs need to then consider trading some of their players away, because the D-backs do have a ton of pieces that you could sell and maybe get something back of value in Zach Gallen and a Eugenio Suarez. I mean, Merrill Kelly's a free agent. I wouldn't want to trade him. I think Josh Naylor is going to be a free agent. Like, the D-backs do have a ton of options coming off the books that a lot of other teams would be super interested in. The only thing is, I'm not trading anyone until I absolutely know the D-backs are not in the mix for a postseason wildcard berth. As long as we're within spitting distance, as long as I can see the finish line, I don't want the D-backs to just start trading away players, because I don't want a whole second half where I know the D-backs are out of it and I'm just watching meaningless baseball. At the end of the day, as a fan, sometimes I don't always want to be practical. Sometimes the practical play is trading away your players and building for the future. But also, I got to do a podcast every single day, and I want to talk about at least interesting, entertaining baseball. I don't want another 2021 season where we're just talking about terrible D-backs teams, watching terrible games. Nothing matters. I don't want to go back to that. I still have PTSD from that. So if anything, let's keep the players so we can at least have an entertaining and interesting second half of the MLB season. This is from DBacks992. He wants to know, has Ryne Nelson won the rotation job? This is a great question. Ryne Nelson has looked fantastic for the D-backs as a starter in 2025. Small sample size for Ryne Nelson, only 3 starts for him. But in those 3 starts, he has a 1.69 ERA. And on the season, he has a 3.79 ERA, because he has been getting better as the season has gone on. And the thing for Ryne Nelson, you look at the platoon splits. He's been incredible against both righties and lefties this season. We know Erod is going to get crushed against right-handed bats. Ryne Nelson, not the case. He is a guy that has dominated against both sides of the plate in 2025. He has dominated against the Dodgers recently, has had some really big games against some really good teams, against the Giants. He didn't start against the Giants, but he started against the Dodgers, looked really good against them. And this is someone that I do want in the rotation moving forward. Ryne Nelson is someone who I think is clearly better than Erod from what we've seen this season. And going forward, it's like Ryne Nelson is someone that you could build around. He's 27 years old. Erod, yes, he's on a contract for the next couple years, but when we talk about who raises your ceiling, when we talk about the future, the present of the D-backs, like Ryne Nelson covers all your bases. He's a better pitcher right now, and he's someone that you could build around, and he's a lot cheaper than Erod. He just makes way too much sense to be in this D-backs rotation. And considering his improvement year after year, it's like, how can you not put him in there? This is a guy who has been fastball dependent throughout his career, and the knock has always been if he can throw the fastball less, work on those secondary pitches more, that's when Ryne Nelson's really going to come into his own, right? When he cannot be so reliant and dependent on the fastball, that is when you'll have the Ryne Nelson breakout season. But when you look at the numbers for Ryne Nelson this year, he's throwing the fastball more this year than he has the last couple of years. And the numbers for his fastball are better than they've ever been, the best since 2022. A 189 average allowed on his fastball, a 300 slug. And so this is a guy who went from trying to figure out secondary and tertiary pitches to saying, let me just double down on what I do best. He's throwing the fastball at a higher rate than ever, and it's more effective than it's ever been. This is the best version of Ryne Nelson we've seen probably so far in a D-backs uniform, and I don't want it to stop. Erod, been there, done that. I've seen enough. He was bad last year. He's been bad in 2025. I don't think it's suddenly going to magically change and turn around for Erod. Give the ball to Ryne Nelson, who's a lot younger, who's on the rise, and clearly getting better. Ryne Nelson, I think, is a super talented pitcher, and he's coming off a season where he already proved he can be the best D-back starter in our rotation because that's what he was last year. So let's keep Ryne Nelson in the rotation. Erod still has that financial commitment, so that's the biggest hiccup to Ryne Nelson's spot because at the end of the day, the D-backs might just say, well, we are paying that guy $20 million a year. Let's make him a starter in the rotation. But if the D-backs are smart, they would lean on Ryne Nelson if they want any hope of turning the season around. If the D-backs were 5-6 games above 500, you could take the risk on Erod coming back in the rotation. But considering how much the D-backs have struggled this year, you need to go with your talent, and that is Ryne Nelson. We got a couple more questions to answer for you guys on today's Mailbag Friday, which we'll discuss in segment number 3. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. My favorite Wonderful Pistachios I actually have right here. Sorry to the audio listeners only. You're going to have to go to YouTube for this one because right next to me, I got 3 of my favorite flavors here. And this is what is great about Wonderful Pistachios. Unsalted right here, no shell. Chili roasted, no shell. And then this one is roasted and salted with the shell. The great thing about Wonderful Pistachios is the variety. You could get salted, unsalted, with shell, no shell. Get a little kick to it if you wanted to. No matter what flavor you want, they have a variety and a profile that fits just for you. So please go get yourself some Wonderful Pistachios. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Back here on the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. Now let's answer a couple more of your guys' questions on today's Mailbag Friday. Next one. This is from Cars Are Us. Don't know who you guys are, but it says, do you believe the D-backs bullpen is fixable like Mike Hazen says? Because Mike Hazen recently came out, I think he was on Arizona Sports, and he said he believes the late game bullpen problems for the D-backs are fixable. But when you further listen to the response by Mike Hazen, he says they're fixable, but a lot of it has to, if they are going to be fixed, is going to come from internal options. Guys already on the roster getting better, looking at our arms in the minor leagues, and also looking at guys on the waiver wire. And so Mike Hazen says the bullpen can be fixed, but at the same time, if we're talking about waiver wire guys, I'm not sure how much it can be. Now, waiver wire guys can be super useful in the short term. Ryan Thompson, I believe, was a waiver wire guy. I think Jalen Beeks even might have been a waiver wire guy. Like the D-backs have had some recent successful waiver wire guys, especially in short term small stints. Even Noah Ramirez in 2021, if you guys remember him, he was really bad in 2022, but his first season with the D-backs, I think he was acquired off the waiver wire. 32 innings pitched, a 2.7 ERA, a .88 whip. Like he was really good in the small sample size. And so the D-backs have been good so far in finding their waiver wire guys. Right now, they're actually calling up someone who I think they signed to a minor league deal in the offseason, Jeff Brigham. He's being called up to the major league roster with Jordan Lawler going down to Reno. And Brigham is someone who concerns me a little bit for this D-backs bullpen because you look at the numbers for him. He hasn't pitched on the major league level since 2023. He has a career 4.76 ERA. When you look at his numbers, he's the definition of a 3 true outcome guy. His last full season with the Mets in 2023, 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, 4.3 walks per 9 innings, 2.2 home runs per 9 innings allowed, the definition of a 3 true outcome guy. And so if we're talking about the D-backs bullpen being fixable and looking at internal options to do it, I don't know if Jeff Brigham is going to be the answer. We'll see. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt because you quite literally can't be any worse than what we're already seeing from this D-backs bullpen. But if we're going to Reno in the minor leagues, there are a couple of pitchers that I would like the D-backs to take a chance on and call up. Hello, Kyle Ament. I'm not good at pronunciations, but he's 25 years old. His strikeout numbers have been insane with the Reno Aces. He's 6'5". He's a righty. He's someone that I think would be really enticing for the Arizona Diamondbacks. The other guy is Kyle Backish. Again, the pronunciations I'm still trying to learn. But those are two guys who are young. Both guys are at least 6'4". Both have ERAs around 3. Both are strikeout pitchers. Backus is a lefty. Ament is a righty. Both around the same age. I think these are two interesting live arms, high velocity arms that I would call up and just see what you have. If they struggle, you send them back down. But those are two guys that I would give a look at first over the Jeff Brighams of the world. But since Jeff Brigham is getting the first look, we'll all be rooting for him. But it sounds like if the D-backs are going to be fixing their bullpen issues, we need our internal guys just to get better. Like I keep saying, J-Mart has to be the closer, define that role, then define it for everyone else. Ryan Thompson talked about how important defined roles for the bullpen were in the offseason, and then we have just not done that at all in 2025. So step one, define bullpen roles. J-Mart, you're the closer / desperate high leverage situations you're coming in. Shelby, you're the 8th inning setup man. Kevin Ginkel, you're the 7th inning guy. Beeks, you're the 7th inning guy, lefty specialist. Juan Murillo, Kendall Graveman, 6th inning, mid to high leverage relief roles. Then whoever else I didn't name, you're in the mix as well. And then that's what I would do. And then you look at your internal options, maybe try the 2 Kyles that I just mentioned for whoever is struggling on the major league level for the D-backs. Sniff around the waiver wire, see who's out there. Then as you get closer to the deadline, start making calls on some of the bigger relievers, guys with pedigree, guys who've done it before. Ryan Hesley he might be too tough to get considering the Cardinals are a good baseball team now, but this is still a season where the Cardinals did not expect to win, so they might still want to sell high on Hesley when his value is the highest. When, they're in this position to sell him, they might want to do it. And so I would sniff around the market for some of those big time relievers, closers, just back end bullpen arms. And in the meantime, define bullpen roles, because that might be the only way for the D-backs to salvage their bullpen in 2025. And then this question is from Livers to end the podcast. Who is the next D-backs player to get an extension? This is always a fun question. And for me, if Jordan Lawler came up and just hit for the first 2 weeks, maybe Jordan Lawler would have been the answer, right? If Jordan Lawler was batting 310 with a 850 OPS right now, it's like, oh, he's playing too well. We can't send him back down to Reno. Maybe he would have been the answer, but I think the actual answer is Gabby Moreno, because his numbers all of a sudden, 276 average, 756 OPS. After struggling that first month of the season, he has definitely picked it up. His numbers in the month of May, Gabby has been absolutely on fire, because in the month of April, it's so funny. He kind of had the same sample size, 74 at-bats in April, 71 at-bats in May. And in the month of April, 230 average, 578 OPS, 0 home runs, 0 ribbies. But in the month of May, Gabby, 71 at-bats, 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, 324 average, 943 OPS. If Gabby can play anywhere near the level that he's playing in the month of May, this is someone that I predicted to finish top 10 in WRC Plus in the National League, and someone who I think will get the next contract extension from the Arizona Diamondbacks, because they love doing their youngsters, right? And Moreno is definitely a core building block for the D-backs future. So I would look at Moreno as the next guy up to get a D-backs contract extension come this summer. Now that's it for this edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Come back next week for more Diamondbacks news coverage and insight. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Deuces.